Someone on your team is using AI to write emails right now. They think they're being efficient, but there's a good chance they're actually making everyone else's job harder. I'm talking about Workslop, and if you haven't heard this term yet, you will. It was named the Word of the Year for 2025, and it's costing companies millions. This is AI tools that work, where we separate the tools that actually help from the ones that just create the illusion of productivity. Let's get into it. Here's a scenario that might feel familiar. You open your inbox Monday morning. There's an email from a colleague, 3 paragraphs long, about something that could have been 1 sentence. You skim it. Then you read it again. Then you realize you still don't know what they're actually asking you to do. Sound familiar? That email was probably written by AI in 30 seconds, and now you're spending 10 minutes trying to decode it. That's Workslop. So what exactly is Workslop? Researchers from Stanford and BetterUp have been studying this phenomenon, and they've given it a precise definition. Workslop is AI-generated work content that masquerades as good work but lacks the substance to meaningfully advance a given task. It looks productive, it isn't. The name itself comes from slop, which was named the 2025 Word of the Year, defined as low-quality, AI-generated digital content flooding the internet. But Workslop isn't just random AI-generated spam. It's the stuff your colleagues create thinking they're being helpful. Reports, emails, presentations that look polished but say nothing. And the scale of this problem is bigger than you might think. According to Stanford and BetterUp's survey of over 1,100 full-time workers, 40% say they've received Workslop in just the last month. That's nearly half of all workers dealing with content that creates work instead of completing it. And it's happening every single month. Workers in a study estimated that about 15% of all the content they receive qualifies as low-effort, unhelpful, AI-generated work. 1 in every 6 or 7 things you're asked to read or respond to might be padding, content created by AI, sent without thought, landing in your queue. Here's where it gets expensive. On average, workers spend nearly 2 hours, 1 hour, and 56 minutes dealing with the aftermath of each Workslop incident. 2 hours deciphering what someone meant, clarifying what they actually need, or redoing work that should have been done right the first time. When you calculate the cost, each Workslop incident creates roughly a $186 invisible tax per person per month, based on workers' self-reported salaries. For a company with 10,000 employees, that adds up to approximately $9 million in lost productivity every single year. $9 million. And that's just the financial cost. The research uncovered something potentially more damaging: what Workslop does to professional relationships. Roughly half of workers surveyed said they view their coworkers as less creative, less capable, and less reliable after receiving Workslop from them. Half your team could be thinking less of a colleague right now, not because of their actual abilities, but because of how they're using AI tools. So how does this happen? Why would someone intentionally, or unintentionally, create content that makes work harder for everyone else? Harvard Business Review analyzed this problem and found several psychological drivers. First, the pressure to appear productive, especially when working remotely. When you can't be seen working, you might feel the need to prove you're working, and AI makes it easy to produce visible output fast. Second, people genuinely believe they're helping. They think more content equals more value. They're trying to be thorough when brevity would serve everyone better. Third, there's a skill gap. People know how to use AI to generate content, but they don't know how to edit it down to what's actually useful. And here's a critical finding. Only about 1 in 3 workers actually notify their teammates or bosses when they receive confusing AI-generated work. The other 2/3 stay silent. They absorb the extra work, fix the problems themselves, and never tell the sender there was an issue. This creates a feedback loop where Workslop creators never learn their output is causing problems. They keep generating it because no one tells them to stop. Some argue this isn't really an AI problem, it's just bad communication habits that already existed. AI just made them faster and more visible. There's truth to that. Bloated emails and pointless reports existed long before ChatGPT, but AI has dramatically accelerated the volume and lowered the effort required to create them. The Fortune article put it bluntly: AI promised to revolutionize productivity. Instead, Workslop has become a giant time suck that's costing organizations more than they realize. And some researchers believe AI tools themselves should be part of the solution, They suggest tools could include Workslop warnings or require human review before sending. But others argue this is fundamentally a culture problem. Organizations need to set expectations about what quality work looks like in an AI-enabled workplace. So what can you actually do about this? Let's talk practical strategies, both for avoiding creating Workslop yourself and for dealing with it when you receive it. First, before sending any AI-generated content, ask yourself this question: does this actually move the project forward, or am I just creating the appearance of work? Be honest with yourself. If you're sending something primarily to show you're working rather than to accomplish something specific, reconsider hitting send. Second, try the 2-hour test. If your AI output would take a colleague more than a few minutes to process, it needs revision, preferably significant revision. Third, and this is crucial, use AI to draft but always edit for conciseness. Shorter is almost always better. Cut everything that isn't essential. The best AI users I've seen treat generated content as a rough draft, never as a finished product. They spend more time editing than generating. Now, what about when you're on the receiving end? Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you receive Workslop, you should provide direct feedback rather than silently fixing it. I know that feels awkward, but remember 2/3 of people stay silent, and that's why Workslop keeps happening. Someone has to break the cycle. You don't have to be harsh about it. A simple, "Hey, I wasn't sure what you were asking for. Could you clarify?" opens the conversation without blame. For teams and organizations, establishing shared norms is essential. When is AI appropriate? What quality bar must content meet before it's sent? Some teams are implementing AI disclosure practices, noting when content was AI-assisted so recipients know to read with appropriate expectations. This isn't about banning AI at work. These tools can be genuinely helpful when used well. It's about using them responsibly, which means thinking about the person on the receiving end. The Marketing AI Institute summarized it well. The rise of Workslop shows that AI efficiency gains can become productivity losses when individuals optimize for themselves at the expense of the group. It's a classic tragedy of the commons. Each person saving time with AI feels like a win, but collectively, we're spending more time than ever untangling the results. If you found this useful, by the way, hit subscribe. We cover AI tools and their real-world impact every week, including the downsides that don't make the marketing material. The researchers emphasize the Workslop isn't going away. AI adoption is only accelerating. The question is whether organizations will adapt their norms fast enough to prevent productivity collapse. The good news? This is a solvable problem. Unlike many AI challenges, Workslop doesn't require new technology or regulation, just better habits and clearer expectations. The tools themselves will likely get better at catching this issue, but we can't wait for that. The cultural shift has to start with individual choices, yours and mine. Here's my challenge to you this week. Before you send your next AI-generated email or document, pause. Read it as if you're the person receiving it. Ask yourself, would I be annoyed if I got this? Is it clear what I'm asking? Is there anything here that doesn't need to be? If so, cut it. Workslop is costing organizations millions. But more than that, it's eroding trust between colleagues and making everyone's jobs harder than they need to be. The irony is that AI could make work genuinely better, fewer tedious tasks, more time for meaningful collaboration, but only if we use it thoughtfully. Use AI as a starting point, not an ending point. Edit ruthlessly. Respect your colleagues' time, and if someone sends you Workslop, tell them kindly but clearly. That's it for this week. I'm your host, and this has been AI Tools That Work. Thanks for listening, and make your next email shorter than this one.